Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. We're back. Welcome to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. You already know how I am. I'm always excited for every guest that says yes to coming on and allowing me to interview them. It is always an honor and a joy to be able to share this space and allow to tell their story about their first triathlon and beyond, whatever else they're doing. Today is nothing different. Except I have someone whose voice you might have heard. He might have called you across a few finish lines. Yes, he's an announcer, a professional announcer at that, but he's also a triathlete. And he's done every distance from the sprint to a full Ironman. And it gets better. He was a coach. So he really knows all the ins and outs about racing and being a multi-sport athlete. Without further ado, I get to bring to the stage or to the podcast, Tony Lugo. Welcome to Try Beginner's Luck, Tony. How you doing?
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Michelle. Thank you so much. I'm so stoked to be here with you. So happy. Super happy to be here with you.
I'm super stoked to have you. So this is going to be fun because you always bring so much energy to the races, whether you're racing or announcing. And I've been able to see you in both settings. And so where does that come from? And what gets you excited about racing and announcing?
Well, I mean, I've been involved with the sport of triathlon since 1999. That's when I did my very first Ironman race. I saw this thing on TV called the Ironman World Championships back in 1997, and I saw the show. I already did some marathons, so I had a little background of running. So I've done 7 marathons before I tried to do an Ironman triathlon. And so I saw the show in 1997. I taped it, and I watched that thing every day. And that's when it became like a passion for me, because I said, I got to do that. I want to do that. And I want to be called that. I want to be called an Ironman. At the moment, I didn't know who said it. I mean, we all know Mike Riley is the voice of Ironman, and he came with the phrase of you are an Ironman. But at the time, I didn't know. I just wanted to be called that. And that's how I started with triathlon. It's funny because I figure, hey, it's 3 disciplines: swim, bike, run. I know I can do the run. I just need to buy a bike and just need to learn how to swim. I mean, it's no big deal, right? I mean, just learn how to swim. So that was my mentality. That was my philosophy. I said, all right, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So I just gotta get and learn how to swim. So it was surprising for me, because the first time I went to the pool to do like a 50-meter size pool, I couldn't get to the half of the pool. I mean, halfway I had to stop. And I'm thinking to myself, so this is 50 meters and I got to do 4,000. So how am I going to do that? So that's how I started. I mean, like full time, doing a lot of swimming, trying to get better, basically learning how to breathe in the water, because that's basically what you need to do. You got to learn how to breathe and get that rhythm going. And then from that point on, I mean, it's a change of a lifestyle, basically. That's right now. I've been doing triathlons for almost 25 years, and I don't train anymore. I just wake up in the morning, I do my regular things, brush your teeth and get on the bike, or brush your teeth and go for a run. It's just part of your life, and that's what it is now. I mean, basically that's my life.
All right, it's your lifestyle, but I'm confused by something you said when you first opened up. You saw the Ironman race in 1997, and you knew that you wanted to be called an Ironman. But in 1999, you went straight to the Ironman distance? Because if so, you are like Rocket Man. Or did you do some other races prior to that? Because if so, you left that out.
So I did. I signed up in August of 1999. I did my first triathlon. It was kind of like a sprint distance, maybe. It was
Oh,
kind of
okay.
it was a weird distance. That was in August 99. September I did an Olympic distance,
Hmm.
and then November I did the full Ironman. So that's how I went.
Okay, so
That was my progression.
let's
I
talk
went
about
sprint,
that.
a little Olympic distance, and then just go for the full. There weren't that many 70.3s. Actually, 70.3 did not exist back then. They used to be called half Ironmans. And there were very
Hmm.
few of them. Actually, we had one next to Puerto Rico. I live in Puerto Rico. So there was one in San Croix. And it
Hmm.
was famous because they had like a big, huge hill. It's called the Beast. And so that was one of the ones that I did, but I did that after I did my first full. So yeah, I did, sprint, Olympic, and then full. Yeah.
Interesting. We heard about the beast from another guest that was on. His name is Lloyd Henry, who's from St. Croix. And so he
Hmm.
always wanted to do that race. But you did a sprint in August. In September, you did the Olympic. And in
Hmm.
November, you did a full.
A full.
Let's walk through that progression because I think sometimes with beginners and just those who are in the sport, right? We want to know, like, what was that like training? Because if you did this in 1999, I'm sure the training and the resources were a little bit different then. So
Oh,
he's like, oh, yeah. Oh,
you can
yeah.
say that again.
The resources were very different in 1999 because we were still thinking, like, hey, what's going to happen when the clock strikes midnight going into 2000s? So what was training like for your first sprint? Take us through that and then take us through your first race.
So what I did, I trained for the sprint and the Olympic based on the Ironman training that I got from a magazine. There was it's funny because it was a triathlete magazine back then, and they had a cover that said 13 weeks for a 13-hour Ironman. That was just one page that they had, in the magazine, and I just ripped that page apart, put it on my fridge, and that was it. That was my training plan. And actually, it worked because I ended up doing like under 13 hours, like at 12 something. So actually, it did work. The training plan. But yeah, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what a CO2 cartridge was when I did my first Ironman. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't recommend to people to do what I did. Just go from too short distance to a full. I would really recommend the beginners to take their time, talk to their coaches, get a coach. The beginners get a coach. It's always good to have a coach and have somebody's opinion on it, and take your time. Don't rush it because especially the younger ones. For adults, the body's mature, but if you're a younger athletes, like in your 20s, I would stay away from the fulls. Let your body, grow and mature a little more. And yeah, once you hit the 30s, you're good to go with the fulls. But yeah, take it easy on the progression of the distances and make sure that your body is ready for that because it could be dangerous. We have people that have been injured, health wise in this type of event because they were not prepared. So you got to be prepared.
That was a lot. Take it easy, take your time, get a coach, prepare,
Prepare. Just you got
prepare.
to prepare.
Yes, that is a necessity. 13 weeks. Triathlete magazine has helped so many people with that whole tear out of the back, strip it open, and then mail it in, or, for you, your training plan of being able to put it out there on your refrigerator so that you could train. Take us through your races and race day because you didn't even know what a CO2 cartridge was. So I hope you didn't have to need one because that could have been an epic day of failure. But take us through your swim for your first three distance of races because I'm assuming you got better with each race. And swimming was what you struggled with the most because you didn't know how to swim. So at your sprint race, what was it like swimming perhaps in open water for the first time?
It's scary, very scary. Still is very scary. When you're not a swimmer, I mean, that's one of the things, that you get scared a little bit about. But the first time on my first triathlon, oh my God, I swallowed so much water because it was open water, it was rough seas, and I'm used to be swimming in a pool. That's where I learned. So it was very rough. So what I would say before you go to an open water swim, if it's your first one, try one before race day. I would really suggest that. Try one before race day and get into basically how to navigate. Because when you're in a swimming pool, you have the line underneath that you can navigate just looking at the line. On open water, you need to sight. You gotta lift your sight up and make sure that you can see where you're at. And that way, I mean, that would be my best advice to, if you're not a swimmer and never been open water, try to do that first and practice that because I mean, it was a tough time for me. Then the second triathlon I did, it wasn't that bad. It was calmer water, so and I came out okay. I'm an average swimmer. I mean, I learned how to swim in a way that I could do 100 meters every 2 minutes. So that's an average swim. It's not too bad. And I could go to the pool 3 times a week and I will average 2 minutes. And I can go to the pool once a month and I will average 2 minutes. So again, because I am not a swimmer, I'm not going to be any faster. I'm happy with that. I just want to get out of the water. So here I am, 1999 at the Ironman in Florida. It was mass starts. It was not rolling starts. Rolling starts, that you seat yourself according to your expected finishing time. You see a sign that says a time on it. And if that's the time that you think you're going to be doing, so you get with that group. Now, mass starts, you go everybody at once. So here I am at the front of the line. Yes, not a smart move on my part. And so I get into the water. And this is a contact sport. When my starts goes off, it's a contact sport. And I was getting hit and left and right. And I look and I said, I'm stopping. So I'm out 200 yards out. And I just want to turn around and I have no business here, right? But when I looked, there was like 2,000 people coming my way. So it was easier to go the other way than turning back to the shore. So that's how I finished. I was just running, I was swimming away from people, basically. And I came out of the water and I was so happy. I was so thrilled because I didn't drown. But yeah, so yeah, another advice for the beginners. Yeah, do not stand in front of the line if you're not a heavy swimmer. If you're not a really good swimmer, don't go on the front.
You and Mark Turner probably have so much in common because Mark Turner, that was his first thing. He happened to get the number one and went first. And he was like, I don't think I should have done that. But
Yeah.
you're right. Like mass starts can be so wild. And you ended up running away from the crowd, which allowed you to save your race. And that, although it's funny now, it probably was not funny in the moment.
Oh, it was scary. I mean, I'm telling you. And that's the reason we're doing rolling starts now, because I say 80% of the athletes do not have a swim background. Okay, they have a biking or running background, but a lot of the athletes, they do not have a swim background. And that is very stressful. So when we do rolling starts now, when we do, let's say 3 people or 4 people every 5 seconds, it's a lot smoother than going 5,000 at a time. And that way people is a lot more relaxed when they get into the water and they don't start hyperventilating that much, because that's one of the things that happens in the water. You start hyperventilating and then your rhythm gets all messed up and you have to stop. You got to start grabbing buoys, kayaks. Again, rolling starts are a lot more smoother, a lot more relaxed. So yeah, but it's a learning process. I still get scared.
Wow.
And I've done
25 years
14 of
later.
these things.
Wow.
And
So 14 Ironman in, 25 years being a triathlete, and you still get scared for this
yes,
one. Wow.
I mean, it's the way I say, to the people when I do the briefings, the athlete briefings that I do at different races. I mean, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay because that means you care about the outcome or whatever is going to happen. But it's not okay to be overly nervous, overly anxious. You know, it's not rocket science. It's just swim, bike, run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you break it out, I mean, all you got to do is just, you know, micro it. Just make it smaller.
Mm,
Just don't
okay.
swim 2.4 miles. Just swim buoy to buoy.
Boy to boy. That's
Yeah.
good. This is good stuff. All
Yeah.
right. So we got to swim out the way
Yes.
for 3 of your first races.
Yes.
Take us through the bike.
Oh, the bike.
Oh.
Funny story on the bike course. First Ironman. So I get out of the water. I'm happy because I'm out of the water. I'm alive. So I get on the bike and so I start riding and I get a flat. So I change my flat. You know, again, I have one of those bike frame pumps. I don't know if you remember those that you put on the bike frame. So I had one of those. And so I fix the flat. Okay, I go again. Then I get another flat. So I go to fix it again. And then the pump wasn't working well because it wasn't sealing right on the valve. So it was leaking air. So I couldn't fix it, right? So I'm standing here like this with one arm with the tire here and then the pump over here. Some guy stopped. He pulled something out of his pocket and he just fixed my flat in like 2 seconds. And I'm like, what? What was that? It was a CO2 cartridge. So I didn't even know that you could have that. So hey, here I am, and I'm thinking athlete number 672 because I don't even know his name, who saved my race with that CO2 cartridge. And I was like, okay, so finish the bike, and I was so happy. And I went and I looked at the merch store for what a CO2 cartridge was because I didn't know. And I bought like 10 of them. I went and bought like 10 of them just to have them just in case. But yeah, it was a very long bike because then again, Panama City is a 112 mile one loop. So, I mean, you don't see much out there. It's just a lot of flatlands and a lot of pine trees. And so, yeah, so it gets to be a little tedious. So it's a mental game. So that's where you got to start working with your mental aspect of the whole racing. Because this is a lot. I mean, it is 80% mental, 20% physical. If you do the training, physical training, that I mean, you can do any races, but it's the mental thing,
Mm,
you know, that you got to cope with it.
I would agree. And yeah, the CO2 cartridge.
CO2
Thank
cartridge.
you. Thank
It
you
was
to
amazing. I mean, that guy, I mean, he was so nice though. I mean, I don't even know who it was.
most triathletes are nice and very helpful and always wanting to help and always carrying more than enough because you never know who's going to need it. And I think that's, again, we say this often, that just speaks to the fabric of the sport and the kindness because we all know what the suffering is like. And so we want to at least help to make people's lives better if we can in that particular moment. And so shout out to the person who helped you with your bike. You're a runner. Oh, you want to say something?
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, so you're a runner. You had done several races before your sprint, your Olympic, and your full distance, all in 1999. What was the run like for you the first time that you got off the bike at your first race, your first sprint
Okay.
race?
So mm, again, I did some running. I started doing marathons back in 95. So I did New York Marathon, 95, 96, 97. Then I did like Chicago and Boston. So I figure, hey, I got this run thing down. I'm good, right? But not after a 112-mile bike ride. It's a bit of a different run when you're running without a bike before, and then when you're running after 112 miles of bikes. And when I started running, I didn't. I mean, you practice your brick training. Usually, when you're doing your training, you do a little bike ride, and then you go for a run, 10-minute run, 15-minute run, just to get accustomed to the transition. neuromuscular transition and all that. But oh my God, I remember when I got off that bike, all I wanted to do, I just wanted to get off the bike. I said, I gotta get off this thing. And I started trying to run. I started basically walking. And then I got like after like a mile, that's when I got a little rhythm and I started running. But it is a very different animal, you know, running a marathon than running a marathon after 112-mile bike ride. That is a whole different thing. So you gotta adapt, and you gotta train. Again, you gotta do a lot of brick training for that. And after those years, every time I did a bike ride, I went out for a run because I figure I'm never gonna feel the way I felt back then.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I need to be better at that. So I was just practicing a lot of brick training, which is bike run immediately after. So and that's how I got better or better, a little less slower because I wasn't too fast. I was just there. But yeah, the running part, I thought I had it all down, but no. No, it's different sport. I mean, running is a sport, triathlon is a sport. So three different disciplines, but still a sport, and it's
In itself.
totally different from running.
So that was your first iron distance, but the very
Hmm.
first time in your sprint race, because a lot of times beginners aren't starting with the iron distance, they're starting with the
Hmm.
sprint or the Olympic. And so you were just very fortunate to progress all in within a 6-month period.
Right.
So what was it like, doing that first sprint? Because the sprint helped build you up, I'm assuming, for the big race and that finish, because that I'm going somewhere with this. So what was it like in your first race ever?
No, I
Your
mean,
first sprint?
again, that first sprint race, I was just happy that I was just out there.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't know I was going to be able to do anything. I mean, let alone finish the swim. When I got out of the water, I was like, wow, this is great. Then I got on the bike, but then on the run, that's when you realize, hey, I'm doing it. I'm really doing this thing, and then you get closer to the finish line and you're really doing it, and all kinds of emotions start going through your mind, and it's so exciting. I mean, when you think that you on the back of your mind, you can do it, but you have everybody in your environment telling you, hey, you cannot, and you don't look the part, or you're because hey, again, I mean, I was not the perfect triathlete, body thing, I weighted like, I don't know, I was maybe 30, 35 pounds heavier than now. And it's different, when you see everybody out there and everybody's like ripped and all, all muscular and this and that, and then you're like, why am I here? Right? But again, it's why not? Right? Why not? Why not me here? Right? I mean, why not is my name backwards? YNOT. Think about it.
You got all the jokes. I love it. And you're right. As I heard you talking this last time, I was like, wait a minute. He did, he had 3 first-time experiences in 1 year.
Yep, yep, yep.
3 first-time experiences. And so each finish line presented a different feel, a different challenge. And what was that feeling the first time that you did it? And the second time, and then finally with the Ironman distance? Because I'm sure you were just like, wow, I just did all these 3. I'm not only just proud of myself, but I accomplished something I didn't think that was attainable.
True. I mean, it's especially when that is not your thing. I mean, I was not an athlete in college. I didn't do anything. I mean, I was really good at partying. I was like,
Hey,
oh
let's
yeah, I was
party.
varsity. I was varsity in party. I tell you that. But I didn't do any sports in college or anything like that. I did play volleyball when I was like in grade school,
Mhm.
but not in college. And so I mean, I did the normal things, smoke and drink, and that's what I did. And for some reason, this lifestyle of triathlon just, it soaks you in and it spits you out like a better person. And that's when you start looking for different goals. I mean, once I get my sprint, I said, okay, so I got this done. What's next? What's the next longest thing? So it was the Olympic. Oh, so all right. So it's twice the distance. So wow, twice the distance. That's a lot, but it's not as much as the Ironman. So it's not that bad. So I did the Olympic, and then you get the accomplishment of wow, I finished the Olympic distance, and that's what all the beginner triathletes should be out there. Just feeling the moment, get into that moment and forget about everything else, forget about people telling you, nah, you're not going to be able to do that. Actually, that's what fires me when people tell me, nah, you're not going to be able to do that. I'm sure I can. Yes, I will, but it's a mental thing, Ishana. It's a whole mental thing, you know.
What I love that you said was that triathlon just sucks you in. And that's a beautiful thing,
Mm.
because if you're doing it right, you do get better with each try. And that's the premise of it, because you can stretch yourself to new goals. If you did your sprint, then you can do an Olympic or try a super sprint. And there's just endless possibilities of better, because
I
each
mean,
race is just endless. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, and to tell all the fans out there, I mean, listen, don't even think about, you know, the negatives of the thing. I mean, all you got to do is just give it a try. I
Mhm.
mean, triathlon is great because, I mean, you don't have to be good at any of the sports. You could be bad at all three sports and still do it. You know what I mean? And basically, that's what triathlon is. Triathlon is people that are not that great in any of the three sports, so they just do all three together. And that's how it works. So, so yeah, I mean, if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast, and you've never done a triathlon, you know what? Look for one, sign up, because you got to sign up. That's the first step. Just sign up, put that commitment, the monetary commitment, whatever it is, $50, $75, whatever it is, just make a commitment and sign up and then do the training and see what happens. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's going to happen two things. Either you're going to finish or you're not. And if you don't, you try it again. It's not a big deal. I mean, it's not that complicated. And if you finish, celebrate and you do it again to see if you can do better. But if you
Yeah.
don't, well, you try it again just to see if you can finish.
Yeah.
It's a win-win. It's always a win-win.
It's always you speak my language. Yes, it is a win-win.
Always a
Ooh,
win-win.
always a win-win. You cannot lose when you try, period. With that said, you got your first races. You've continued to do races for 25 years, but you're a coach.
Yes.
Let's talk about that coaching a little bit, because that probably puts a different spin and perspective in your own personal racing.
Well, the thing is, back when I started in Puerto Rico, there was only like maybe in '99, it was four people and then me. So it was five people that have done Ironmans, right?
Mhm.
So, I mean, whatever one of those five people said, people were going to say, like, wow, he knows what he's doing. So I started reading and started educating myself. And there was like 12 people that were, how would you say, not smart enough to say, yes, train me. So I did. And I put everything that I knew, which it wasn't that much, but I did do all the training for them, and I did all the tapering, and we all went to Panama City then the following year in 2000, and we 12 of us finished. And so yeah, actually, I in 2004 I trained my wife for her first Ironman. She was like the first woman Ironman in Puerto Rico. And so yeah, um, sometimes ignorance is a bliss.
Wow.
Yeah, so
But there was a need for you. And so do you still coach to this day?
Not really because of the announcing. I mean, I'm really more into the announcing right now, announcing side of it. I coach myself basically, because I don't. I've always coached myself. I never had a coach myself, but no, I don't coach anymore. Just announce and have some really, really, really awesome time at finish lines.
Okay.
That's what I do now.
Well, let's just transition right on into the announcing. How did you get started announcing?
Announcing, I got started back in 2000, in the year 2000. Back then, I used to own a spinning studio. That's why I did a lot of my coaching because I had my spinning studio. And so I knew a lot of the bike shop owners because I used to buy parts for my spinning bicycles.
Hmm.
And there was a cycling race on a Sunday, and it was kind of like a crit race, and cycling is like you go around many times.
Yeah.
And the cycling race was pretty boring. It was like a 30 lap race. And the organizer is a friend of mine, Fernando. He was from Argentina, and it was an international race. So there was people from the U.S., from the islands that spoke English, and he didn't know how to speak English. And there was some instructions that needed to be said, and he needed somebody to say that. And I was at the moment I was just right next to him, and he had the microphone, and I said, Fernando, whatever you need, let me know, and I'll say it. So I grabbed the mic and I said whatever he needed me to say. And I asked him, listen, can I do some intermediate sprints? So intermediate sprints in cycling is like if you have a race, let's say of 25 laps race, like let's say on the fifth lap, on the 10th, on the 15th lap, you put money on the line. So intermediate sprints. So intermediate in between the races before the race is over. So you have lap number 10, you have $100. Lap 15, you have $200. So I started doing that by asking people that were watching the race. I was asking people for money to put it for the sprint. So I was like, I was looking at my friends that own the shops. Like a friend of mine, his name is Jose Boillo. And I said, Jose, if you give me $20, I say the name of your bike shop 20 times. They said, okay, no problem. So he gave me $20. And I started getting money and putting everything out on for the intermediate sprints. So the next weekend, there was a new cycling race. It's been going on for 20 some years. It's called the Bayamon Grand Prix. And the guys were racing and they saw me doing what I was doing. And they go like, hey, why don't you come with us next weekend? We have a race and we need you to do exactly the same thing you're doing here. We're going to put a case of beer in a cooler and you can talk all day. And that's it. I said, for a case of beer, I'll do a weekend of announcing. And that was my first paying job. Was with a case of beer at the Bayamon Grand Prix in 2001. That was my first paying job for as announcing. And then I started announcing for Ironman in 2011 when the Ironman 70.3 came to Puerto Rico. I was supposed to race, but my ex-wife now at the time, she's still the volunteer director, and she came up to me and she's like, well, you know what? We have an announcer, but he only speaks English. And you done announcing and you know everybody in triathlon here in the island. So what, can you help us doing the announcing? I said, sure, no problem. So it's like, I'm like, okay. So because I was getting paid with beer back then.
Hmm.
So I'm like, what am I going to be paying with these people, right? So they didn't pay me anything. So they gave me my money back from my registration for the race. So I got my money back and I worked the race. It was fun. And then after the 2011 Puerto Rico race, they had the Panama race, the 70.3 in Panama. And they really needed somebody who spoke Spanish for Panama. So they hired me. And that was the first time that I got hired by Ironman. Um, in 2012 for Panama. 2011, I just did a freebie for them. That's how it works sometimes. And then been announcing since 2011, and now I do like the US and I do Latin America, and yeah, all over the place.
No, I totally get it. And I think, sometimes that's how you get your start. You just get your start by somebody handing you a mic, you just having fun with it, you're doing it. You're like, oh, this. And
Yeah.
you give your freebies here and there, and then at a certain point, you're like, okay, it's enough. Show me the money. But I
Yeah. Show
love
me
the
the money,
fact,
right?
show me the money. But
Yeah.
the
Now I
fact that
get a little pay, I get paid a little more than beer now. Yeah. Yeah.
that's good, because
Yeah,
otherwise
you
I'll be
can
like,
you can make a living. Let's put it that way.
oh, that's a good thing. That's a good
Yeah.
thing. That is a good thing. And I think announcing is it's not a job for everyone. And sometimes it looks more glamorous than it can be. Um, but it's a good thing to be able to encourage athletes across the finish line and to be able to touch them in a way that makes them feel special, make them feel seen, heard, and accomplished, because that's our job. And so, speak to one of your favorite, you probably have many, but what's one of your favorite um, announcing stories that you would like to share?
I tell you what, announcing for me is okay. On a race, my favorite place to be is at the swim start, right in the middle of the people coming in the rolling start. I get smack in the middle, and I just look at their eyes, and you see, I mean, you see all kinds of emotions looking at the people's eyes, and sometimes you see the people walking down to the water like this, and they're like praying, and some others are crying, and that emotion, I mean, for me, my job is just to calm their, have them calm down, relax, have them enter the water, you know with enough self confidence that they can do what they're about to do. And yeah, my job, and I tell you, like I said, my favorite place to be is just right at the swim start, right in the middle when the people are walking into the water, and I just feel that emotion, and it's awesome. I mean, the finish lines are great. I love finish lines. I mean, there's no question about that. But that starting line, I mean, when they start rolling in, and the fear and the nervousness, and all that emotion is awesome. That's just, I love it.
What are some things that you do to calm them down? Because I'm thinking now, like, if this is your favorite place to be, what is your saying that gets them calm and gets them going? Because you're right, everyone has a different place where they love. So you're speaking to me as a beginner, scared of the water. I'm coming down with the prayer hands. What would you say to
And I
me?
will look at you and I will tell you, you can do this. You train for this.
Hey,
And if you train for this, you can do this. I mean, that's it. I mean, all you got to do is just believe in your training. If you've done your homework, if you've done your homework for your training, there's nothing you have to worry about. All you got to do is just execute the plan. That's all. But then again, I mean, it is those moments before you go into the water, because especially for the first timers, is the fear of the unknown.
hmm
That's it. And you got to let them know it's gonna be okay. And you look at them into the eyes, and you tell them it's gonna be okay. And you put your arms around it, and you walk them into the water. I had a lady in Texas, and I think it was Waco. She didn't want to go into the water. I mean, she was just blocked. She couldn't go into the water. And I just started talking to her, and just talking to her, and I just kept walking her down. I don't think she was, she noticed she was walking with me. All of a sudden, she's just touching the water. And I'm okay, off you go. And I just push her in. And she went, you know. But it's just that all you gotta do is just keep that athlete a little confidence, and let them know that, hey, you did this, you're ready for this. Just believe that you can do it, and you will do it. That's the bottom line.
So, from your perspective, because announcers sometimes can see a bird's eye view of the things that go right, the things that go wrong, what are some habits that you see from beginners that you would caution them against from your purview?
Um, they just concentrate too much on the outcome of time. I mean, if you're a first timer, you know what? Don't even wear a watch if you don't have to. Yeah, forget about it. Forget about the time. Forget about it. Just go into the water, finish the swim. As long as you're not the last person going into the water, let's say there's time limits in the swim and different, for the different events. So as long as you're not the last person going into the water, you will come out within the time limit. Just relax. Don't put pressure. You have enough pressure of finishing, let alone trying to finish in a certain time when you don't know what's going to happen because you've never been there. You know, I mean, you've never done 2.4, 112, and 26.2 on the same day. You maybe train 100 miles one day, maybe you ran 20 miles the other day, but you never put it together on the same day, right? So if you're a first timer, forget about the time. Just enjoy it. Just smile every mile.
That I love that. Smile every mile.
Yeah, that was a good friend of mine's. Her name is Erica Coons. And actually, it was in Maryland I met her. And she was like, oh, and he says, oh, we got to smile every mile. Yes, you do, Erica. You got to smile every mile.
I
Yeah.
love that.
So you
Erica
got
Kuntz.
140.6 miles out there for the fools.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. From an energy standpoint, you are sometimes the heartbeat of the race. How do you keep your energy engaging enough so that
I'll tell you what. If I see your train of thought correctly, all right. So we as announcers, we are there to inform. That's what we do at first on the race before race day. We are there to communicate, and we are there to motivate. Okay. So when you're out there and that finish line is I mean, it's just happening, right? And you gotta be up there.
Mhm.
When I'm done of finish at a little past midnight on one of those Ironman full Ironmans, we are totally drained because the amount of energy that we put out there is immense. I mean, especially the last hour on that finish line, you gotta have that finish line pumping. And it is our job as announcers to make that happen and make that happen in a really in a fun way,
Mhm.
for everybody, not just for the athletes. You got family members there waiting. So you got to interact with the family members. And I feed off the fans all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, when I have fans out there, that's my energy feed. That's where I get it from. And of course, you gotta have good music. So I tell the guys that are doing the music, you gotta just keep me moving, and I'll be happy. I tell the guys from sound, it's like just keep me moving. Don't make me stop moving because then I'll fall asleep. I mean, after what? I mean, we go out to transition at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's 12 midnight. We're still out there. I mean, it's a long day.
Mm.
So as long as we keep moving, we'll be fine.
And when thinking about that energy, again, from my perspective, I do sprints, Olympics, and half distances. So for you, it is a longer day. And I think that's why I was kind of asking my question about or trying to get it out, but couldn't speak for whatever reason. You don't do any smaller races. Your focus now are more of the Ironman brand distances
Right.
and cycling races, etc. Okay. That that
Yes.
it's that's a good perspective. And so what is a Tony Lugo ism?
Wow. I don't think
Oh
I don't I
shucks.
don't I don't think I have a Tony Lugoism. I don't. No, I don't have one yet. I gotta figure that one out.
Like, what's the
Um,
one thing that people know, like, if they're coming to a race, and I think this year you say you're doing Texas, uh, you're in Panama,
right. I'll
and
be right. Well, you know what I would say, Mishana? I mean, my only Tony Lugoism will be basically the tone of my voice. Because when I'm at a race and I see, and this happens to me a lot, people don't see me sometimes when I'm announcing, but when they hear me, they know it's me. It's like,
yeah,
oh, I heard your voice. I know it was you. I know it was you. It was going to be, I mean, so I guess that would be my thing, but I don't have like a phrase or an ism that I could say, hey,
you can say
that's Tonyism. No, I don't have that.
you don't have a
I got
Tonyism.
to figure that one out.
Don't worry, we'll come back. With the next time you
So
come to the show, we'll be like, so now what is your Tonyism?
we're
What
gonna
have
have
you
a
noticed
Tonyism.
about yourself? What have you noticed that you do all the time? And you'd be like, that's a Tonyism.
Yeah, that's a Tonyism. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Oh my goodness. It's so interesting to see and just hear different vantage points of the race. One of the things that when I started my podcast, what I was wanting is that I would be able to bring in members from every aspect of the race because usually they've participated in a multi-sport distance or a triathlon. And so, to hear from the announcer's vantage point, I think that's special because a lot of times people are feeding off of our energy and they want something from us sometimes that we don't even know we're supposed to give, but we give quite naturally because of what we do and in our role. And so, what is an experience that you would say you see a lot of first timers on the Ironman distance make that you oftentimes have to help them kind of either self correct in that moment or make that adjustment, or if that is even a thing?
Um, I try like as an announcer, I try not to get um like involved with the athletes if they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Because
Mhm.
again, they were coached by somebody sometimes, and maybe that's their thing. So for me, there's no right or wrong to let the people know, hey, don't do that. Or, if you do that, this is gonna happen and it's not gonna be positive or what have you. Um, so yeah, I try to stay away from that, Michelle. Now, I try not to give opinions
Mm,
on things about racing, and especially first timers, um, because you never know. I mean,
right.
they're doing things maybe that their coaches told them to do. Um,
So, like
but
race morning, forgetting their race caps. Like,
mm,
and again, that could be on a like a smaller distance level. Like, do you ever see people
mhm.
forgetting race caps or not having
how how about
their
this
timing
one?
chip?
Well, how about this one? Not taking the swim cap and putting the cycling helmet on, with the swim cap on. I've seen that happen. So
What?
the athlete comes out of the water, takes the goggles off, right? And then puts the helmet on it, forgets to take the swim cap. And I'm like, you're gonna cook yourself in there. So yeah, I've seen that happen. I've seen athletes putting the helmet backwards and coming out of transition with the bike and the helmet backwards. So yeah, I mean those are things that you see, but it happens because they're just in such a hurry. I'm like, slow down, take your time, make sure you put the thing right, and then just get on the race. But yeah, um, especially in the shorter races, that's when a lot of the beginners go in. And
Yeah.
that's where you see, I'd help them. I will help them a lot in transition. How to accommodate things in transition. I
Mm.
think that helps a lot to the first timers. How to have everything order and neat in transition, because that way they will be a lot easier with the flow of things. So yeah, I will do that. I usually, if I see somebody that was, not experienced enough and have everything all over the place, it's like, okay, come here, come here, come here, come here. Let me show you something. And
Exactly.
then you just put the shoes, the cycling shoes, and then the running shoes and everything in order and nice and pretty as to take a picture and use it as a reference. So yeah,
And that's what I meant. And I think
yeah,
sometimes we aren't there to help people with giving them their opinions, but sometimes it's just a
Hmm.
little simple things about your transition area. You're going to be
Right.
confused if you come back here, or make sure you have X, Y, and Z so it's easier for you. Because I think sometimes people just need to know those things, whether they have a coach or not. When they get there in that moment, their minds are
Hmm.
thinking about so many other things beyond the most important things is making sure you're organized so that you can have a good
Right.
race. So those
Right.
are just some of the things that I often see. And on the smaller distances, it's like race belt, like having the simple things that you need
Right.
that just are just missing. And so just wanted to ask you those questions. But
I mean,
Tony,
for the first time, it's just about educating them, you
yeah,
know, in a nice way. You tell them in a nice way, I mean, do this and do that. I mean, you suggest do this and do that. You let them do whatever they want. But yeah, I mean, you just educate them so it's, they have an easier time
yeah,
going through the whole motions. I mean, especially, I mean, they've never done that. So yeah, the, the beginners, just make sure that transition is one of the things that usually gets them, how to set up the transition and where everything goes. So yeah, I mean, I would say that to the beginners, yeah, get organized, do everything organized, and just, I mean, there's Google now. You can Google everything.
there is Google now. And a lot of things are Googleable. But however,
Yeah,
Google
a
doesn't
lot of
provide
things are Googleable.
experiences.
Yeah, yeah,
Google
yeah.
doesn't provide experiences. So sometimes you got to experience it.
You
And
got
then
to
you're
go through the
like, oh,
motions. You
okay,
got to go through the
okay.
motions. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Tony, this has been great. We have rapid fire, so I can't let you leave here without doing some rapid fire. Um,
Yes.
favorite, ah, what's your favorite distance?
Favorite distance? Yeah, I go for the full.
Okay,
That's
like,
that's that's what I train. That's what I've trained for always. So yeah, I go for the full. I like the fulls. Yeah.
okay. What's one piece of gear or equipment you don't go without? That you can't live
Ah,
without, I should say. Like there's something that you be like, I have to have this with me at every single race.
um, I have a special hat. It's a very old hat. I don't know if it's a lucky hat or unlucky hat, because that hat. I mean, I had good races with a hat and bad races with a hat. So I guess it's, yeah. But I guess that hat I have to have. It's got to come with me to when I travel with it. For races, not necessarily I'll use it, but I have it. It's
Yeah.
there. It's just a
Okay.
thing. I mean, it's a stupid thing, but yeah.
No, everybody has their thing. I love that. Where your favorite place to bike outside of Puerto Rico?
Oh, Colorado. I mean, when I went for I did the Ironman Boulder, and I
Mhm.
loved it there. The only thing is I can't breathe because it's too high for me. But I loved it.
Elevation.
I'm a sea level kind of guy. You know what I mean? I'm from the islands. It's like I'm from the tropics. So yeah, but Boulder is beautiful. I loved it. I mean,
Oh,
I mean, if I ever move somewhere that doesn't have ocean, and I guess things too cold for me.
yeah.
you know.
And then
But yeah,
having to deal with
Boulder,
snow.
the Boulder race or New Zealand, that was amazing.
Mm,
That New Zealand race,
I bet
yeah,
that was I bet that was they're both beautiful in very different ways.
very different
Very
scenarios.
different
Yeah,
ways.
yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
What or who inspires you?
I would say the story of Bob Jordan. Bob Jordan is a fellow, is an he's an ex FBI agent who back in '97 he was at the Ironman in the
Hmm.
story for the Ironman 1997, and he had a story about his daughter. His daughter passed. Her name was Emily, and before she passed, she sent a letter to the organizers to have her dad do the race because I mean he couldn't qualify, so she was asking for a last gift, you know, for him from her on his birthday, and so yeah, that was I would say that story. It was very that's what impacted me to to do this thing,
Mm.
like to start racing. Because it was very emotional. It was a very emotional thing. And again, I watched that videotape every single day for almost a year. And it was a videotape. It wasn't CDs back then. It was a video.
The VHSs, everybody, the
Yeah,
VHSs.
VHS. I don't know if that exists anymore.
They do. Actually, I just saw a place and I was like, are they really having VHSs? Especially now they're bringing records back. So VHS,
Right, right.
I'm a little scared to anyway.
Yeah, but I would say that. Yeah, definitely that. That's what inspired me to do this now. The Bob Jordan story.
Favorite post race food?
Burgers. That's easy. B&B, burgers and beer.
Burgers and beer. I love it. So you
Yeah.
answered my other question at the end of a race, but there it is. Because I was usually beer, wine,
Yeah.
water, or soda. He's like B&B, beer and burgers.
B&B, burgers and beer.
And my one question that no one leaves this podcast without being asked: do you pee on the bike or take a pop or pee break?
What's that? Do I get? Do I pee on the bike?
Do you pee on the bike or take a proper pee break?
No. Never on the bike. No, I'm not. I mean, if you are an elite athlete that you're gonna break a record, then you pee on the bike. Come on. That's just. Especially when you have to run after that, and no. That's why we have porta potties on 8 stations, so you can stop.
Now those porta potties be few and far in between on the bike.
Yeah, well, you get off the bike and you go to the woods or something.
I forgot.
Never go on a neighbor's lawn. You just gotta go on the woods, go out there.
I forgot. Men can do things a little differently. So you have more leeway to go wherever you may choose or please. But that's good. At least we got it together. Y'all,
just be careful with the Lyme disease, you know what I mean? Don't get bitten by a tick or something.
This has been great. Tony, thank you so much. Thank you for all you provide to the sport, and just appreciate your energy, your knowledge, and your story. Thank you. Whenever you try beginner's luck, we had the same. You always win. And as you can hear, Tony even said it. It's a win-win. You cannot lose. I'm Ashonda Shines, and we are out. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win.